Thank you also to the 233 watching live on YouTube. This is probably a record turnout for a fans forum. And this is a fans forum. This is not a Wycombe Wanderers Trust meeting. Many of you may not be Wycombe Wanderers Trust members. You probably ought to be, but there was no compulsion to be a Trust member tonight. And the agenda really is set by you. We do try and have a structure that we're kind of going to try and guide, but there's no question off limits. Okay, so if it's about the potential investment, the trust ownership model and the history of that, if it's about football, if it's operational, anything to do with Wycombe Wanderers. That better not be the food they were holding back for me later. No question off limits. So you won't need introductions to the panel. I'll introduce myself. My name is Matt Cecil, Head of Media and Marketing at Wycombe Wanderers Football Club, supporter of more years than I can remember now, 27, something like that. For those of you maybe slightly unfamiliar, on my far right, the chairman of both Wycombe Wanderers Football Club and Wycombe Wanderers Trust, Trevor Stroud. Mr. Rob Couhig, started well. Mr. Rob Couhig, in the middle of Trevor and Gareth. I haven't got a title for you yet, Rob. You're just Rob. We'll come to that. And former player at Wycombe Wanderers, was given a caretaker manager job 7 years and hasn't left since, to be honest. Gareth Ainsworth, ladies and gentlemen. So to try and help the flow of the night, what we're going to try and do is firstly talk about the upcoming vote, and you'll have read loads about it, and there's been plenty of discussion regarding potential investment into the club from Rob Couhig and his team. Then we're going to talk about the football. Gareth's here to talk about football, and then we'll talk about general matters, operational, anything that's been bugging you, anything that you recommend, anything that you've seen, any experiences that you've had, particularly this season with Chairboys Village and ticketing, anything that is really keeping you up at night that you want to talk about. It's an open forum, and we've got the guys here to discuss. We also have some other people in the room that we may just call forward to answer questions if they're best placed. We have Mark Palmer on the front row, who's on a day-to-day basis here, working as part of Rob's team with all of our staff. A couple of the trust directors are dotted around that may have a little bit more detail on the mechanisms of the vote. Club captain Matt Bloomfield's lurking in the corner as well over there. So if anyone's got a particularly taxing question for Blues, we'll go with him. Let's not be Blues and easy night. So we may call on extra people throughout the night, but primarily you have your panel in front of you. And just to kick things off, Trevor, where are we? In the grand picture of Wycombe Wanderers, as chairman, you have had an unbelievable summer of working with Gareth on recruitment, of working alongside Rob on getting us to a position now where, if you can explain in a little bit more detail, we have a really significant moment in this club's history on the horizon.
Thank you, Matt, and thank you everyone for coming out tonight. It's been an interesting year. Obviously, remember we had the other Americans, as we now call them, and they pulled out 5 days before there was due to be a legacy meeting, and I guess that was the lowest day of this year for me so far. And you start thinking, where are we? Where are we going to go? We, I think, have been very fortunate because we've actually managed to find, in my view, the right Americans, and therefore things happen for a reason. So where we are is that Rob and I are very close in terms of signing an agreement, in terms of how we're going to go forward. We will present that at a legacy members meeting, probably early October. We haven't finalised the final dates yet, but certainly early October-ish, where the details of the deal will be gone through in detail with the legacy members. What I can do tonight is basically shape the deal for you so you can see sort of roughly where we're going to be. And the key thing is on the completion of the deal, there will be a plan that makes this club debt-free. Most importantly, both of the charges that are currently on Adams Park will be lifted. And from everybody's point of view, that was the role of the trust, to protect the heritage. So we will own the trust will own the stadium 100% with no charges against it. And I think just that alone is just a brilliant situation to be in. So, as I say, the details of the agreement will be presented at the legacy members meeting. We are also planning to have the agreement here for inspection. That doesn't mean you come down and take photos of it and put it online. But if you want to go into the nitty-gritty of what's involved, then it will will be here for legacy members to come down and go through it and just see for themselves exactly what is going to be involved. The other important thing to stress is that after the deal, the Trust will still own 25% of the Wycombe Wanderers. They will still have 2 board members on the board of the football club, so they will still be involved influencing what is going on. All of the enshrine rights will be protected, so we're not going to suddenly start playing in red and white stripes. We're not going to move the ground, we're not going to become a franchise, so all of that will be covered as well. So really it's just getting people to understand what the deal is, pushing over the benefits of it, and then letting the legacy members decide the future of this club. And finally, and I will shut up in a minute, the other thing I will stress is if you are a legacy member, please, please, please vote. If you vote no, that's fine, because that's your right to vote yes or no. If you don't vote and let apathy decide the future of this football club, that will be a total crime.
Thank you, Trevor. Before we continue, I did share a couple of duties I was meant to tell you. Firstly, toilets are that way, fire exits are that way. Mobile phones, firstly, please keep them silent, and we do prefer it if you don't kind of update social media as we're going along, partly because it means you may not actually be listening and paying attention, and partly it's just nicer, I think, in the grand context of things, to sum it up at the end of the event. It is live on YouTube. Numbers are growing by the minute. And to viewers at home, I always wanted to say that, you guys can put questions in on email to media@wwfc.com, and I'll be coming through here, so if we do have any questions that come through on email that aren't asked on the floor, then we will of course read them out. Let's move on. Rob, 2 months ago, I think it was July the 8th, we sat here. You were probably 1 week into kind of adapting to Adams Park life. 9 or so weeks later, how's it been, Rob?
Well, for those of you who weren't here, when we started, my hair was a little longer than Gareth's and more full. It has been an incredible beginning to a journey. My nephew Pete, who a lot of you have gotten to know, my brother Kevin's here. You will learn something about the Couhigs. We're very shy people. We lack confidence. But Pete said something that was pretty impressive the other day. They asked him, what do you think about this whole Wycombe deal? And he said, you know, I've only fallen in love twice in my life, at first sight, once with my wife and once with Wycombe. And I think that says a lot about the relationship he has with you. My own history on those 2 areas is a little slower. I take my time, but I have to tell you I have enjoyed every day of the past 2 months, with possibly 1 or 2 days last week where I was a little bit. But here's what you learn. Here's what you learn in this too. And if you remember, we said we wanted a period where we could both see each other. Me, y'all, and y'all, me. And we talked about whether it should be 6 months or 9 months. From my standpoint, if we had to go on another couple of months like that, we'd probably be willing to do it, because we're having the time of our lives. We're really, the community has welcomed us with open arms. We enjoy it. My wife, Missy, has become a regular on British Airlines now. And so we're having a great time. But part of the reason for us, and saying maybe it's time to speed up the engagement, and I'm not going to use the analogies I was going to use about the 9-month period. This club, I think, in large measure, due to Gareth, Bloom's, the team, what Trevor has done, is in such a unique space in its own history, with opportunities that none of us could have imagined when we sat down there 2 months ago. And I want to be a big part of it, but most importantly, I want to make sure we have everything we need to take advantage of this opportunity. The one lesson I've learned in business and in law and the rest of my assorted things I've done is that opportunity doesn't come around and knock and say, hey, pal, when you're ready, we'll be ready for you. It says, let's do it now, or we may never come back. And I want to make sure we take advantage of this now. We push now and make it work for all of us. I've seen enough, I guess is what I'm saying. If they accept me, I'm good to go, and hopefully it all works. So that's how I've enjoyed my 2 months.
And Gareth, you and I spend a lot of time talking about how to manage expectation and the gradual progression of the club. You ruined it a bit by going top of the league last week. How would you sum up the first 8-9 games of the season so far?
Yeah, again, reiterate, thanks for everyone coming down tonight. I know how important this is to everybody involved with the club, and likewise, it's important to me, really important. What we say, 4 or 5 months ago, we sat down in the office, myself and Trevor, and talked about a budget that really would be competitive in the bottom end of League Two, if I'm being totally honest, and that's where we'd been looking, and that's what we've been working with for years. And again, after the first couple of hours of disappointment, we said, okay, let's deal with it. This is what we do. We will really try and make this happen. But believe me, that would have been the toughest, and it would have been so tough to perform in the league with the proposed changes, because it's tough. Running a football club's very tough, and the club's been obviously losing a bit of money, and we had to cut somewhere. Then I met Rob in June, in the middle of June, and Mark, and the talks we had were super positive about it. And everyone always thinks when you meet somebody that it's just coming in to have a look and speculate about a football club. And from the moment I met Rob, and I don't mind saying this next to me now, he was true to his word, put the budget back to where it was, and gave me a little bit more, and said, I want to prove I'm committed to this club. And this is within weeks of meeting. This isn't, it's not, this isn't a big deal that's had to go through. And I'll have to say that the expectation was smashed, by getting top of the league. And I'm so proud. I'm so proud to be the manager in this club's history that managed to get the highest position ever in this club's history. But please believe me that without Rob and the gentleman next to him, Trevor, with the deals we've done, with the finances that have come in, it's a big part of the puzzle that we've managed to get top of the league. So I'm just now so excited about what we could possibly achieve. And as Rob says, it's sometimes you don't look the gift horse in the mouth. You go, let's have a go at this. Let's do it now. And for the first time, I've always said, I'm happy at Wycombe and played the game and played the line, but this is a crucial time. I think we could really achieve this club, and I want my preferred option. I want to manage in the Championship, of course I do. Who doesn't? But as I said the other night, my preferred option is to be able to do it with Wycombe Wanderers, and I think we have the chance to be able to do it. Also know there's a lot to look at, there's a lot to go into, because it's a football club that a lot of you have been here a lot longer than me, but believe me, it means a lot to me as well. Okay, cheers.
Thank you. Guys, it's over to you now, actually. Can I borrow a couple of trust directors to run around with the mic? Sorry, I forgot to ask any of you before, if Bob's in the room, or David or Nigel. Thank you, Nigel, sorry. So, as I said, if we can try and keep to a structure. I appreciate some of you may have questions now, or you may think of one later that relates to something that's already been said, but I think the best thing we can do now is focus on, firstly, the upcoming vote, Rob's involvement with the club going forward, and really, questions from you guys about that topic first, and then we'll move on to football and kind of general matters later on. So if I can ask you guys to share 2 mics between 3, I'd like to take the order we get to on the floor. Just a show of hands, please, and Nigel and Bob will come to you as soon as they can. Who's going to go first?
This is a very boring question, but actually maybe critical in relation to what Trevor was saying about making sure that all votes count. Are we absolutely sure that you have the contact details of everyone that can vote? Because I've tried to update my email address and I don't get anything through. I don't know how you communicate with people, but I have fears that, you know, things may go wrong because we haven't got the most up-to-date contact details for everyone to make sure that everyone can vote, does vote.
Probably the best thing is if you hand the mic back to the man in the pink shirt, he's probably the best man to talk about that. Again, Nigel.
I think I can say that if you're concerned that we haven't, then send an email to me at Wickham Secretary. Yeah?
So is that on the website? Because the other thing is a more general thing about communicating with the club is being clear about how we can contact people.
Yeah, yeah. You'll find me as one of the trust directors, Nigel Kingston. It's Wickham Secretary or Secretary of Wickham. It's on the trust website. You can find that. Email to me if you've got any queries about your email address. We've got a trust register of all people who are trust members, but if you've changed your email and not told us,
Well, I have, but I still haven't had anything.
we haven't got the right address.
Okay. The other point to make is as well that an email was sent out to every legacy member who we think is a legacy member in the last few days. So if you think you are a legacy member and you haven't received that, there's a table over here, there'll be the table here at Portsmouth as well. So please come and speak to the guys involved and we'll make sure we get all these details sorted out before the vote.
And just one more point on that is that, as you know, the criteria for a legacy member is to have held a season ticket for 4 consecutive seasons, including this one, but you also have to be a current trust member. So if you're qualified from the season ticket point of view and you're not a trust member, please go over there tonight and join the trust, or do it on Saturday, because the cut-off date is the 21st, which is Saturday.
Yes, hello, good evening. I just wondered if you could maybe clarify for us exactly what legacy members are going to receive by way of the details of the offer, because I think you said something about the full details of the offer are not going to be available except only if you come down the club and inspect them, and I'm not sure that that's going to be good enough for most of the legacy members. What about people who can't actually make it down the club because they're old, elderly and infirm and so on?
It wasn't just the only way you can find out is come down to the club. There will be a full presentation on the evening and there will be slides made available to members as well. What I meant by it being available here, if somebody literally wants to go through where the commas are and where the full stops are in the agreement, it will be here to look at. There will be a full package put together for legacy members to consider before and during the voting period, and we will have a trust director here every day during the voting period who you can ask questions on as well. So,
well, why aren't you doing that by email or something a bit more formal communication? Like you
it will be done by email as well.
Okay, well that's fine.
So that will be part of the calling notice of the meeting.
Okay, all right, that's fine.
Just one question on legacy membership is the fact that there are some students who have been members of the club and have had season tickets for many years, but then go away for 3 years to do their university courses, and they're now being penalised by not having had those 3 years as consecutive. Is there anything that can be done for them, or is it just because it's part of the
I think the problem with that is that whatever system we have, there are going to be some people who get penalised, perhaps not necessarily through their own fault. Those are the rules that are in the Constitution, and you'll guess what, if you want to change the rules in the Constitution, we have to get 75% of legacy members to vote. So we acknowledge that the system isn't perfect, but we have to draw the line somewhere.
Well, we're going to go back then onto a couple of questions by email, and I suppose it's more about why the involvement. I know we talked about it a couple of months ago when you were first here. We do have questions over there. We'll finish this question first while I'm asked then, because this is one from Jordan on email. This vote's impending. People are wondering why you've come, you were linked with Yeovil previously, that's obviously out in the public domain. That deal didn't go through. What is it about Wycombe Wanderers that makes this club one that you want to partner with?
Well, I think the people in here probably have a pretty good idea of what makes Wycombe special, probably better than me. When I looked at it originally, it had some things going for it that I thought were interesting. And I have to tell you this story. My friend Mark Palmer calls me when I was on my way to look at Bury. My pop used to say, "You're the luckiest man on earth," and once again it proved to be true. What we were looking for was a place in English football at the right league that was affordable to us. I'm not capable of owning a Premier League team. I wanted a club that was geographically available so that when Missy and I came over, we didn't have to drive 5 hours to get to it. We could get here close enough. We wanted a club, candidly, that was in some degree of I'll use the word trouble, but I mean it more economically, because we thought that we could come in with our capital and expertise and turn it around. And we wanted a club that had very stable management on the field. And obviously this club is unique in these leagues with the long tenure of Gareth and candidly his expertise and abilities. So all of that sort of fit into a place. And sometimes you come to a place and you say, you know what, this is it.
Let's go to the question in the corner then, please, if we can.
Hi, Rob. I think you kind of answered it just then a little bit, but most football league clubs, our size, they don't make money. Football league, lower league football is a money-losing business in general. So, is your plan to build up a club to not lose money year on year, or are you going to be putting money in and writing it off for the local club?
Let me tell you, I'm not the smartest business guy in the world, nor am I the richest. And while I have a reasonable ego, I don't have one where I'm going to impoverish myself to do it. I'm getting into this with the full expectation it's going to be hard to do, but that there are ways to turn this economic model around. Gareth and I have talked about what makes a club successful ultimately is being economically sustainable. What do I mean by economically sustainable? We've got to drive enough revenue into the club, not through cash contributions, but because we increase the number of tickets sold, the amount of money that we get from concessions and hospitality, the amount of merchandise that we sell. One of the things that makes it interesting, and Matt and I talk about this all the time, we have the opportunity to be the worldwide Wycombe Wanderers phenomena, because there are people throughout the world watching this tonight who are supporters, who want to do more, wear the colors when they go out. They need to have this be a big part of their journey home to come to London. They want to come out to Wycombe. They want to catch a game. We want to be able to demonstrate that some of the things we have done successfully with baseball in America can work here, and so we can play to full houses. We can produce the budget that Gareth needs, but we don't have to produce a budget that puts the club into debt year after year after year. I'm going to be disappointed if in the inside of 2 to 3 years we're not very cash positive, that we're not sitting around and somebody in this audience who votes for it saying, gosh, we could have done that and we'd be making all that money. I don't think it's true, but I think that's the goal. It is not just to have this thing be status quo. My goal, every day that I'm working with this, is to drive those revenues up in a way that gives people maximum value for their pound, so that we can get maximum production on the pitch, so that we can rise this thing up to the upper levels of League One, so that we can legitimately be a championship league team on a sustainable basis. That's, you know, I'm 70 years old. I could go to the house and be done. This is the challenge of a lifetime, to make this sustainably work and to have fun with it. And those two things are possible. So that's, I guess that's my answer to it.
Well, in order to get there, and this is another question from Jordan that came in earlier, and it's probably a question to all of you, in order to get there, there is a vote, there is a high threshold, a 75% requirement of all ex-members to vote in favour. The big what-if question, what if you don't achieve 75%? And this is a question for Trevor as well.
Well, I'll start because my answer is easy. If I don't, it means I'm not wanted. I got other places to go. I'll miss it. I'm going to hope Kev, I hope we can talk Pete into coming home. But, you know, it would be unfortunate. But that's, you know, you ask a girl to the dance and she doesn't want to go, you take no. That's at least my position.
I think the answer from my point of view, and the honest answer, is I don't know. I mean, we'll be back in the mire of that, there is sure. And I guess we'll be in a position, we're back to the choice we said before. We can either stare down the barrels, and the barrels are getting bigger all the time, or we can look up and go for some investment. So I can't say what will happen if the answer is no. I mean, we are thinking about it, talking about it, we've got talking to people in the background. But at this point in time, I can't sit here and say we have a wonderful alternative. And that would be mad anyway, because I think the right choice is sitting on my left.
And as I've said earlier, bluntly from me, I've been lucky enough over the 5 years with Andrew coming in the time he did and getting me involved in the finances and seeing how things work. And at one stage, I probably could have told you what the pies cost and how many we sold in the kiosks, and that's no joke, you know, because I needed to know that information to work really closely with people to know what I had. I'm going slightly away from that now because it's been taken out away from me, because I want to concentrate on just the football, getting this team as prepared as they can for each game and winning games. I'll tell you now, if we don't get the vote, I think we could be in some serious trouble. And that's, I will say it bluntly, because I know these two people can't say it. I think it could be very, very tough. And I'll have to say, we've really punched above our weight for 4 or 5 years. We really have. And so if anyone turns on and says, well, how's it got like this? It could have been a hell of a lot worse. People have kept this club really alive. People have kept it. And all of you, the people who've come in and done it for nothing, volunteered to run the club and come in and work with finances and sacrificing their own jobs, they've kept us alive, you know. And it comes a time when you think, this really needs to change, you know. And for me, this is that time. And that's why I've committed, because I believe in Rob and what he could do for this club.
Nigel, I was going to go this way first. I think this hand came up first, and then in that corner. So over here, please, first.
Hi, just continuing from that. Do you see the 500 Club continuing in the foreseeable future?
Absolutely. I think it is one of the things that makes this club unique. One of the, assuming, and I don't believe in assumptions like this, but assuming the vote goes the way we all hope it goes, one of the things I want to do is sit down with those who have participated with the 500 Club and talk about where we go next. Gareth and I have talked about the need, and Mark has brought this up, Pete has brought it up, for an under-23 team. If we're going to compete at this level, we need to have those resources so that, you know, we're not in danger of having to bring Trevor out of retirement to go play in the scrimmage. And we need to make sure that Gareth has all the tools that he needs to get there. And so I think they can be integral in taking ownership almost of that in helping us, because it's a money loser. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. But it's very important to the future of the club. It provides that, as I say, the additional resources we need. And ultimately it provides the stepping stone so that maybe one day we have an academy again. So, second.
Yeah, just wondering about the apathy vote. Have you considered a mechanism that if halfway through, three-quarters of the way through the voting process, somebody hasn't voted, that you could G them up and say, we want your vote, whether it be no or yes, we still want your vote, as opposed to just letting it slide and we find out people didn't know, forgot, we're just apathetic.
No, I mean, we will be using the Electoral Reform Society as we planned to previously, and they will be able to give us an update on numbers who have voted and I believe who has voted or hasn't voted. We can't influence why people want to vote, but we will do everything we can in terms of chasing people up to ensure that they have voted. Over that voting period, you won't be able to get away from the message, have you voted? But we'll also do it on an individual basis as well.
Yeah, for the voting process, is that something where you have to physically attend Adams Park? And if so, is there a process in place for people that might be away?
We're hopeful that the main voting will be online. So you will receive an email from the Electoral Reform Society, and you will just be able to click a box and it will go straight back and you'll have voted and it will be done. We also understand, people particularly like me, who are a bit of technophobes and don't know how to click boxes or whatever, then we will also facilitate that either via a postal vote or possibly via a physically voting here as well. What we want to do is make it as easy as possible for people to vote.
In your earlier remarks, you talked about a new board or a reconstitution of a board. Can you give me an understanding of who that is and who will be taking over the what I would call the executive leadership level of the club?
Yeah, let me tell you who the board will be. At least it's a 6-person board. I can tell you who my nominees will be, and since I'll own the votes on my 4, I suspect those 4 will be elected. Me. Peter, Mark, and Missy. We're going to have a woman on the board. It's going to and I should say this to the ladies, we will no longer be distinguishing you with pink versus blue when you come to occasions. Trevor and the trust will, not Trevor and the trust will have 2 members of the board. It will be up to the trust to designate those 2, and I have no influence or ability to direct it. What's important about it, though, is that you as members of the trust will always have direct information about the comings and goings and the financial details of what's taking place with the football club, because they will be fiduciaries not just to the club itself, but to the trust. So they're entitled as members of the board of directors to see everything, to know everything, and as fiduciaries, they'll be reporting back to you. Frankly, I expect we will as well, but you have that additional safeguard. And that's how I see it working. In terms of day-to-day executive, I will be very involved. It is my nature to be very involved, but my role will be more of trying to make sure that we are moving towards the best possible experience at Adams Park, that Gareth gets what he needs to succeed, to be involved. Nobody in the executive group will be involved in the football decisions. Those decisions will be Gareth's. He and I have an understanding as to how that works, and that's how it's going to work. Pete and Mark will divide up the executive functions My suspicion, knowing the two of them, Mark will be much more involved in the commercial sales and services and the like, and Pete much more in the finances and sort of day-to-day operations. Matt will be very much involved in it, and so that's how it'll work from that. And then, of course, as I say, on the football side, our intention is to keep this man to my left happy and here and help him be successful.
Can I just ask, why is it 75%? So I don't know if you know, Rob, a few years ago there was quite a big vote in the UK. There's only 50-50, it's gone quite well. So why is it 75% for them to get?
So you're talking about the level of the vote needed?
Yeah.
Okay. The history is when the Trust took over in 2012, basically I think there were about 600 Trust members, and the Constitution at the time said that the sale of the club would be decided by a majority of Trust members. So in theory, if somebody wanted to come along and try and buy the club, they could have got 400 or 500 people to join the Trust and vote to buy it for 10 quid. So we set it up very much as a defence mechanism. We didn't probably have the foresight that says 7 years down the line we're trying to invite somebody coming in to help us. So that's the history of it, and that's where we are. It was set up purely as a defence mechanism, and it possibly coming back to bite us in the bum. But if we get it right, we will get that 75% easy.
Are there any more questions predominantly on the investment side of things, Tony?
Just a quick one, going back to a question that was asked earlier. Could we just have a bit of clarification on whether the draft agreement will be available for legacy members to view electronically, as opposed to coming in and viewing it?
We haven't thought the details finally through on that, Tony. The only issue is, as soon as something goes electronic, it's transferable, it goes online, it goes on social media. So it's about confidentiality as much as anything. So if it's here physically to be examined, then obviously you won't be able to photograph it, people can read it. As soon as it's on a PDF, it goes everywhere.
Talking about defence mechanism of the vote, a lot of the fans value that because of what's happened in the past. So I don't want to get too far ahead, but Rob, there'll come a time when you might want to sell the club. We've got this defence mechanism for the fans because the fans are constant and they might appreciate some form of mechanism that helps decide who gets the club after you. Is that going to be possible, do you think?
I pride myself on always being direct and honest, and the direct and honest answer is, as I sit here, I don't know that there is anything written in the agreement that gives you that guarantee. What I have committed to, and what I told Trevor I would do, is give him a letter, technically we call it a letter of comfort, in which I write to him as the present chair and say that should the time come, I will have discussions with the trust well in advance, give them opportunities to talk about it with me and the like. And I'm going to tell you how that question came up. Some of you were here maybe 2 months ago when a question very similar to that came up and said, what are you going to do when you want to sell? And I answered honestly, I had never thought about it. But it was a legitimate question, so I've gone back and thought about it. I don't want to put it into a situation where, and this is tough sledding, I die and my wife and kids are trying to figure out how to sell it. We got to go back to the trust. We got to go through a 9-month period or whatever. That didn't seem fair to me. But so the way we worked it out is I'm not going anywhere. I commit to him that personally. I pride myself that when I make a commitment of any type, I stick with it. And so that was the best we could do and get by the lawyers with. One of the things I should tell you, sometimes in this agreement, we have done things that my lawyers have objected to because I want this to go forward. That's one of the hesitations, trying to get guys who work for large firms to have their insurers say, make sure you write Couhig the letter that says you have advised against this. And so we get there.
If there are no more hands, I think we might talk about football. There will be the opportunity, of course, at the end. Trevor and Rob especially will be staying around. I'll offer you for as long as you like this evening. We will go to one more question. I'm keen to move on to football, but we will come to you, Will. We are going to let Gareth shoot off relatively soon at the end because he's done a full day before 8 this morning, before I got there. Big game on Saturday, again early tomorrow, and what a win that will be on Saturday. So we've got there just let's come to Will, and then if we can, we'll move on to the football. But as I say, Trevor and Rob and the rest of the trust directors will be around at the end of the night if you have more questions on that side of things.
Okay, so question to Trevor. What advantage is there to the Supporters Trust, do you feel, to bring this deal forward from the original time that you suggested that we'll be having the vote?
Sorry, say again. I couldn't really hear. Where are you? Why are we doing it early? Well, I think just as Robert expressed, the feeling is it's good, the feeling is right. The other thing is that, again, being realistic, we need more money to come into the club. Rob's already put money into the club on an unsecured basis, and I don't think it's right that we go to him again and say, put some more money in without some sort of commitment back from us. So that's the other reason as well.
Shall we go to football? Because I don't feel the gaffer's said enough yet. That's unusual. When we sort of originally planned this day, we're thinking, Christ, if we have a bad run of games, then this could be a sticky night, and we're on up, so let's talk about football, eh? Any questions for the gaffer? Someone's going to ask about academy or B team. Roy already has on email, so I might come to that straight away. It's been talked about possibly at every meeting like this we've had since 2012, Trevor, since it was the academy was closed down. It was reintroduced as an idea about 2015. I think we sat here and discussed the professional development phase scheme, which clearly needed a lot of funding, and the club wasn't in a position to do so. Going forward, it's probably a question for all three of you. Let's start with Gareth, because he hasn't done anything for a while. What do we think about the potential of a B team, or an academy, or a development squad, whatever it might be, coming back to Wycombe Wanderers?
Yeah, I'm all for an academy coming, but let me caveat that with that is two things. It's a lot of money, a hell of a lot of money, when the initial money needs to come into the football club first before we start thinking about academy, and time as well. Time for an academy is, I've said this before, I think the best 13, 12-year-olds around this area are all snapped up by somebody else. We'll get the best 9 and 10-year-olds, and with Richard Dobson overseeing it, and people like your captain over there, Matt Bloomfield, mentoring these kids coming through, I think we'll get them, but we'll get them in 8 years, 7 years. So an academy, great, but give it time, give it patience. And where will they go if they're good enough from the academy? They can't go straight in the first team. So what I've proposed, and this is probably me driving this when people are saying, what should we get, an academy of 23s? The 23s is the ideal situation. If we could get a 23s in place, and it won't be, I'll go and sign 15, 23, 22, 21-year-olds, it won't be that. I might be able to get 5 in the first year, 6 in the first year, and then supplement it with the boys who don't play. We'll have an actual 23s team. So you've got your link then from the academy to the first team. That's your 20. That needs to be in place first, because, I mean, it's simple, common sense. And then eventually, we can then have a look at starting something below that to push up into these 23s and into the first team. What we had, and again, the two guys next to me, we had a B team game against Brentford 3 weeks ago. That's the first reserve game we've had for a year, because we just don't have the numbers. I think Marcus Bean played 7 times last year in a whole year of football. He's a professional footballer. He played 7 games in a year. It's not right. It's not good enough. So we need this. We've started it already. We've had the little sort of start of a B team-ish, and it's not a 23s yet. It was a B team, but it's great. It's great to have these little things now that we can build on and build on. The 23s for me would be first, and I spoke to Rob and the various people about that. That's a go out. The academy, just give us a little bit of time and patience. That needs planning and needs some serious money with the PDP, with a physio, a coach, child protection, all these things that need putting in place. So that's some serious money as well. So one step at a time.
That's actually part of an answer to a question that somebody asked earlier, what have I learned in the past 2 months? I never realized how necessary depth of the squad is to a league team, particularly an elite league team. They play a lot of games, injuries occur, things happen, and you can't expect to go through a season with only 16, 18 people. So you really need to figure out how to get up. Right now, what do we have? 24, 25, and we 24. And really, if we had our druthers, we'd be closer to that 30, 32, and we'd be able to get those guys playing time. That's why the next step for me, and that's why when we talked about what about the under-23s, that's where we got to be, so that he always has people, and not just people, quality players available who have been playing and are tuned up.
I think the other advantage of having a B team is we've re-entered the Berks and Bucks Cup. So we have the vision of playing Slough again.
That's for you guys, man. That's for you guys. We're going to win the silverware.
Right, football questions in the room then, please, guys. I do have more on email, but here we go, Steve.
My question is really about injuries at the moment. I know we've got Rolando, he's hurt himself a bit, and I think Samuel got kicked, well, I won't say the word, but a lot at Gillingham. And obviously Paul Smith's got a fractured foot or something, I think, so can you update us? I mean, I know we don't want to give too much away, but it'd be nice to have a little bit of insight.
Yeah, no, Paul will be out. He fractured his foot in training 4 weeks ago. That's a 6 to 8 week injury, so that's the update on Paul. Rolando came on against Lincoln, I think it was, and he had a bit of a freaky injury in his costal muscle that he got dragged around when Jacobson wanted his 4th goal, that free kick on the edge of the box. That's when Rolando got injured. And he is very close to being back either weekend or for definite the weekend after. And Fred's obviously back now, fit. And Alex Samuel, again another rib injury, as we saw in the game. So it's Alex, obviously it's sensitive, but he's going to miss this weekend. His Portsmouth game, he's going to miss that, which is, I think he's going to be one of our best performers this season, which is going to be a blow to us. But as Rob alluded to, the depth, with the David Wheelers and your people who can play up front and replace him, it's just fantastic to have. And of course we've got the Beast as well, so we've got plenty up there. But those three, 2 of them very, very close to being back. Alex and Rolando. Paul's going to be the full 8 weeks probably with his fractures. So yeah, that's where we are. The only thing with Alex is if it's a fractured rib, you can play with them, but you've got to make sure that they're not going to whack. They're pretty padded and that. Everyone else is fine at the moment. Cito and Curtis have both swapped places on the bench recently, which has been great. And I have full faith in my medical team. We really do keep those boys fit. And so yeah, no, good
What about
question.
Curtis?
Curtis is fit. He was on the bench at Gillingham, I think. Yeah. But I've also got Nandi Offenborg and Alex Patterson in midfield. Both up to match fit again. We've got a B team game coming up. We've got a Checker Trade game. Leasing.com game coming up. So Curtis does need minutes. Believe me, you can't just come in and you're setting someone up to fail if you just put them straight in without any other game. And I took him in against the Portsmouth on a Saturday. It would be fair on him. So we need to get some more minutes into him. But him and Cito, if needed, we would have no worries playing him.
what, if any, lobby do you as a manager have, or the players have, at officiating at this level?
Let's kill the live stream and have an honest conversation.
I honestly don't know how to answer that, but I'll give it a good go. Have the officials been okay this season, or? I think the basketball manoeuvre from the left back on Tuesday night may be a sending off for me. Do you know, it's I still stand by that all the they should be professional at this level. They should be professional. I mean, it's a topic way off what we're talking about tonight, but I mean, if we could get professional referees at this level, we're all professionals. I don't have another job where I go to and that pays all my bills. This is my job. This is what I need to get right. And if it's weighted on an insurance salesman or a banker, I said banker. On a Saturday, if it's hinged on somebody who's worked, I don't know. I mean, some of them are policemen, and they've worked all day, and then they come to do a game in the evening. I have sympathy for them. You know, I think it's a tough job. They should be professional. They should rest all day, like we do. Get out there and go, right, I'm going to do the best I can and get it right. And so I'm just flabbergasted still that they're not professional at this level, because this is one step away from the 5th biggest league in the world. The Championship is the 5th biggest league in the world. The 5th biggest watched league in the world. The 3rd biggest in Europe. And we're one step away. Last week, we were one place away from that, and we had a part-time official officiating. I'm not having a go at the officials. I sympathise with the officials. I think it's higher up. They must make them professional, and then I can have a go at them if they get it wrong.
More football questions.
Back, yeah.
Hi, Gareth. The Lincoln manager's job that was in the press about you going, was there any truth in it?
I know what you're talking about.
And for Rob, what we got to do to pin Gareth down to a longer contract?
You told, I just heard him say it wasn't interesting.
No, obviously the Lincoln City flattering, and no, if I can say this to you, and please respect this, that we do things in the right way here. Lincoln City do things in the right way at their club, and you put 2 and 2 together and get 4, please, because you know I'm an ex-player there, played there, lived there. They were without a manager. They might well have looked at me. They might well have tried to get hold of me. But we do things right, and we won't comment on anything. But I wanted to stay here. I'm not going to build something over 7 years, or having 10 years as a player, but 7 years as a manager. I'm not going to scrape and scrap and you wouldn't believe what me and the staff have got up to sometimes at the training ground to make it the best possible environment for those players with absolutely nothing. And to leave that, it would take something spectacular. And believe me, it would. It would have to, on all fronts, and I don't mind saying it'd have to be spectacular on the money front, the opportunity front. It would have to be spectacular for me. And I think we're on the verge of something spectacular. And I want to say, to stay here long term, of course, if the people are in here and backing me, because I believe in me, my staff and my players. I think long term would be fantastic. Why not? Why don't we be different? Everyone else sacks their managers. I know the manager won't sack me. Stick with me. Cheers.
Could we hear what Missy thinks about all this, please? I'm sure she'll be as energetic about it as you.
Wow.
Just don't ask her to sing.
Honestly, I have never met a warmer group of people. You know, because I guess you probably would guess this, but when Rob first told me about this and brought me here the first time and maybe somewhere else, I thought he was insane. But I've been thinking that for a long time, so it was okay. But just the welcome that we've had here and the opportunity, and you'll get to know a little more about me, but I have been in sales my entire life, and to walk in and talk with people about what could make your club better, and you know, some of that was merchandising, and I have experience with that. So just to dive right in and start working, it's been so much fun. I just hope we can continue it.
If there's no more football questions, we might follow on from that and then open up to a general discussion. And Missy touched on retailing as one area that you've already seen some improvements in there, and they're hoping to go forward. A new ticket company, the Chairboys Village, anything operational that you guys have experienced, come across in a good way or a bad way. Like I say, if there are more football questions, more than happy to carry on, but let's open the floor up for general questions now on any topic. As I say, we have Mark here, if there's any questions directed for Mark or other members of the staff as well. Sandy?
What I'd like to know is, when we're in the championship, how are we going to cope with capacity in our little ground? And how are we going to get out at night?
Those are great, legitimate questions. Let me try and answer it this way. I have been here since Tuesday at noon, and with the exception of the time that we went to the match on Tuesday night, I've been in meetings with various people, not the least of whom is yesterday at, I'm trying to make sure I've got the times right, at 11 o'clock I had in the people who are, by their own accord, the foremost experts in stadium design in the world. They did Wembley, it's a company by the name of Acorn, to come in and look at those very questions. And they wanted to know my priorities. The first priority, I told them, was traffic. We need to make it easy to get into and out of. That was backed up when Kevin, Claire, Missy, and I left on Tuesday night. And we were all four exhausted, and we said, we're going to cheat out of here. It's a half an hour after the game. We'll just get in the car and drive home. You should know this about my brother and I. We can be vocal with each other about the propriety of our decision making. And it was agreed that one of us had made a mistake by leaving early. So, I kid about it, but it is job one to figure that out. The second thing is, what can we do to expand the facility to make it compatible with a championship level team? Two answers. It is doable within the footprint. It is somewhat expensive to do it in the footprint, but legitimately less expensive than starting all over, assuming we get the transportation thing resolved, which we will. So they have some ideas on that, and I don't want everybody to go out of here and say, wow, next August we'll be in the brand new facility. What I've told them is we need to take these things in bites. The meeting we had, I guess, Kev, at 3 o'clock, my brother is one of the foremost experts on audio systems. He owns one of the best companies in the world on it. And he brought in some experts for us to talk about how do we redo what we presently have so you can actually hear the announcements being made out there. They came in, they gave us the estimate. Kevin once again served a very useful purpose. He got me up off the floor, told me it was going to be okay. I looked at the number and he agreed, no, it's not okay. But we know we have to do that if we're going to be a first-class facility. This morning I met with the folks to come in and wire us up and put in the fiber that we need so that we can have Wi-Fi throughout the stadium. And when we talked to these folks, when they asked us what we wanted, in much the same way Mark brought us the #1 ticketing opportunity in the world, the paperless ticketing that we have, and we've gotten nothing but compliments, so don't give me any non-compliments on it tonight. But later you can. But the ticket code operation is working. We're getting ready to step it up so that it's seamless. You can buy not just your tickets, but your merchandise, your concessions. You can pre-order stuff at halftime delivery and the like. In order to do that, we need a much better Wi-Fi system. The Wi-Fi system that I met with the folks on today will be the state-of-the-art for any stadium in the world. Shockingly enough, and maybe not so shockingly, if you think about the cost of a television, the price of doing that today is much less than it would have been if we had done it 3 years ago. In a way, we're at an advantage that we don't have it in. So we're looking at those things, all of which is to get to the real answer, which is how can you afford a championship-level team in a town that produces 9,500 fans, best case, in the present stadium? One, we have to make it so that we sell it out all the time. Second, we have to, in order to sell it out all the time, we have to make the sellouts less reliant on the football team's performance, but rather on making it somewhat more reliant on the event day. You want to come because it is going to be an event. You have to be part of the event. Third thing, we have to produce the additional revenue streams that comes from having an ability to buy merchandise online anytime, come to the stadium, buy good food and drink at reasonable prices. You want to be able to maximize all of your revenue sources. One of the things we've looked at is some of you may know this, we're big followers of the team when we're not here on iFollow. iFollow, with Matt's assistance, we've already begun to triple the revenue from it because you get out there, you've got to sell it, you got to sell it, you got to sell it. We think, and I give credit to Kevin on this, when we come in with additional cameras, we'll be able to produce our own TV that will become must-see TV for Wickham people throughout the world legitimately. And so the long answer is you've got to stop thinking about yourself as little Wickham. You have to understand, and some of you will see, I use this phrase all the time, the Wickham Wanderers worldwide phenomenon. That's who we are going to be. This man is dragging us there on the pitch. My only job is to make sure that we do the rest to make it easier for him year after year to do it. And we can do it if we're all ambassadors of this club. We can sell it, we can bring in those additional revenue streams, and there are clubs in the Premier League that won't have stadiums much different from the size ours will be. Frankly, they're not that too distinctly different when you think about the comparative leagues from where we are today. It's because they've figured out the additional revenue streams. Is that a reasonable answer?
If I could just say on transportation, it's been an ongoing battle in terms of trying to resolve getting out of the ground. A few years ago we had the two, turned it into a one-way street for a while, and that helped, but that was blocked. What we have managed to achieve, and this is a credit to David Cook and Gordon Riley, you may have noticed there are no longer lorry boxes parked on Hillbottom Road on match days. And that has been the bane of my life because A, it's a risk in terms of we need to get emergency services in very quickly and people going out. We now have a link into Bucks County Council that actually works, and hopefully we can use that and exploit that to improve the road conditions after a game.
Why wouldn't two lorries on Tuesday night then?
Yes, we're not sure about it. We're trying to work out the crane. I don't know about Tuesday night. We'll investigate that. But basically, if we did an agreement with them that it wouldn't be on match days, and we wouldn't then object to anything else. Perhaps they didn't realise that football was played on other days apart from Saturdays.
Hi Rob, you talk about the whole experience of football, and I'm over here. We had a Brentford supporter here on Tuesday night, and he was parked up in the top car park, and it took him an hour to get out of that car park, and it's the same experience.
It was right behind Kevin, mate.
The question is that when I was actually stuck last season, I went down and saw the stewards, and they were just holding the traffic back. There was no traffic control, and it made you feel like you were kind of like valued, and also taking an hour to get out of the car park really does spoil the experience. Are there any kind of like ways forward on this?
I sure hope so. I mean, I'm expecting it. That's why I brought the experts in yesterday. That's why Trevor's been working with them. Gordon Riley, who's in charge of our game day operations, and I had a very short discussion about it Wednesday morning. I was able to relate to him one fan's frustration with getting out of the parking lot, a fan that he would see daily forever. And so he and I are continuing to work on it. There are legitimate jurisdictional issues, but there are many things I think we got to do better, and we can do better to help.
Good evening. It's very encouraging to hear all the initiatives about improving the matchday experience, but I wondered if any thought has been given to improving the service and variety offered at the kiosks around the ground. If my experience is anything to go by, I can spend most of my half time queuing to get served and miss the start of the second half. I'll be interested to hear.
If the question is, has there been any consideration of it? I'm going to answer it on three levels. First, people have asked me, why are we accelerating this marriage? We've talked about two of the reasons. The third is that I can only make so many recommendations to Trevor and the board that they can accept without incurring certain liabilities or potential liabilities. They're not in a position to do that because of the economics. Without getting into potential litigation, I think it is fair to say that the food and beverage people are well aware of my position. I don't expect you to know much about me, but once my position is known and once I'm in a position of authority, there will be some differences that you will appreciate. Having said that, let's give Pete some credit. He made Missy and I bring over a case of Creole seasoning in order to get you ham-breaded. We felt like Missy was like, I'm not bringing that through customs. You got to bring it through customs. Those dogs look like they're interested. All right. I got to get the gaffer home. You got to get some sleep, brother. All right.
You touched on the council. I don't know if any council members here, but how aware are they of your plans? How supportive is the council? The main thing I think for getting the club up to a sustainable level is getting more people through the doors. And you mentioned some of the things you can do, but it's being discussed outside of on the forum sites how we can actually get the message about Wickham match days actually taking place even out to the community. In the town centre, in other areas, how involved are they going to be a blocker for a lot of these plans, or are they actually going to be a facilitator over the next few years? Do they really understand and have they bought into the plans that the club have got?
I think generally they are supportive as long as it doesn't cost them any money, which is always one issue. But we are now in a very fortunate situation. One of the trust board directors is a guy called Peter Lerner. He's not here tonight, he sends his apologies. He is married to a lady called Karen Satterford. who until 3 weeks ago was the CEO of Wigan District Council. She has now, so assuming she survived her parachute jump yesterday, she is now wonderfully retired. So we now have a source of how we can actually work much more closely with the council, which previously was blocked because of conflicts of interest. So that is a huge opportunity for us going forward. So generally, yes, the council are in favour, but we think we need to just drive them a bit further, and I think we've now got the route to do that.
Gareth, just going back to football, just a quick question about the loan market.
Yeah.
What you've done is probably miraculous, but I see that you're forging links. Obviously, QPR is strong. Southampton, Bournemouth, Newcastle, last season Man City as well. Just wondering what Wycombe's stock is with Premier League clubs, and perhaps what your relation is with any Premier League managers.
Yes, I mean, we started on this again 7 years ago, and I was very went behind the ears of relationships. I found out that relationships with people now is incredible. We went through every championship and every Premiership team the other day, and between me and my immediate support staff, we had every team covered. This was about 2 months ago. Every team covered. We all knew somebody we could call at this club, except Newcastle. And now I have someone there as well. So we've covered every team. Believe me, we've got every team covered, and it's all about relationships. So that's you in. Now what we have to do then is prove that their players are developed and their players are looked after and their players are you know, they go back better players. And I think on the whole we've worked that really well. Working closely with Mark, who's obviously with Rob, with the potential people who could come in. Mark also has a few links in football, and said, why don't we get a loan brochure out to show the players that have been in our door. I mean, everyone, Premier League clubs give you a loan brochure, and they say, take him, take him, take him, take him. This is the loan brochure. This is how some Premier League teams work. So you get that at the start of the year, and you look at them, you think their stats, oh, they're great, might have him, might have him. We thought, why don't we reverse it? Why don't we show the Premier League clubs what we've done for all these loan signings? So your Everett, your Easy, So with the help of young Connor, who works in the MAT, we put together this brochure of Everett, Easy, Alfie Mawson, the players that have come in, and Jamal, all these ones, and we thought, right, we'll be proactive. We'll send this to the Premier League clubs and say, have you thought of Wycombe? This is what we've done to these boys, and again, to this day, it still keeps churning out. Paul Smith was fantastic before his injury. I can see big futures for both Rolando and Nandi Offabor as well. And again, working in partnership with the opportunity to bring these people in from Premier League clubs. And I have to say, you know, the relationships we've got through my staff and the culture we have, it's fantastic. We're able to bring these players in, and the culture, like I say, that's not going to change. You know, all this talk about what we're going to do to the club and aesthetically, and we can make it bigger and better. Really, one thing that we have above a lot of people is the culture we have here. The culture won't change. We're going to add to that. We're not going to just go what we've built over these years. It's finished. That's so important. That's the core of this, and you're all part of that. So that doesn't change, and that's part of all these players coming in and doing well, feeling at home, feeling great, and so the relationships are really important. And lucky enough, I can't remember the last time we brought 2 Premier League players in on deadline day. I don't think there was a day. So that's a fantastic moment for me on the last day of the window of the season.
10 to 9. Any more questions? There is one here, and I had your hand up a minute ago. And there's also one here. Andy's got the mic first, and then we'll all come to you and Dave.
Obviously, I'm very pleased to hear the ambition for the club going forward. And It appears to me for a club of this size, what we're trying to do is almost emulate what Bournemouth did. I mean, a few years ago, I was down at Torquay with everybody else on a day when we nearly went out of the Football League. And a couple of years before that, Bournemouth nearly went out of the Football League. And they have obviously progressed and done extremely well. So it's really a question for Gareth and also Mark Palmer. What are the key points that Bournemouth have done to achieve what they've achieved at that club? And are those the key points that will enable this club to go forward in the same way?
It's a great question, and I can't lie, it's not the first time that we've had this comparison put to us. I'm lucky to know Eddie quite well, well enough to speak to at games, Eddie Howe. He said one of the biggest mistakes he made was going to Burnley. Being a Blackburn lad, I agree with that. but joking aside, he said the continuing, just the culture, the growing culture, believe me, cash helped. They had the Russians coming at the right time, giving him cash to do it, but he didn't overspend. They didn't overspend, they didn't go crazy with it. The culture and the size of the club stayed the same. They didn't overdevelop the stadium. And even now, I think, what are they, 13, 14,000 in the Premier League? So 11? I mean, phenomenal for what they've done. Believe me, there is quite a bit of money behind the scenes there. You know, they have got some serious investors, some serious Russian money there, without a shadow of a doubt. But the things that we can take from it is the culture, is the longevity of the manager, of the players, of the staff, you know, of the way the club is run, because I think we were talking to him, and the people who worked behind the scenes, if they were good enough, they stayed, and they stayed even through all the Championship, Premiership years. The people who'd done it all in League Two, they were still stayed with them at the top, and I think it is a good story to emulate. I mean, Premier League, you're talking, you know, crazy money nowadays, but I firmly believe with my squad, with some additions to my squad, not with my squad, with some additions to that culture and that squad that we've got, I believe we can challenge. I think this League One is not as powerful as it has been in the past. I think we can dream. I've told you all to dream. I want to dream. I want to dream. Don't do that.
Thank you, Gareth. You said about Eddie going to Burnley. I guess you wouldn't go to Burnley. To answer your question, I was actually involved with Bournemouth at the early stages of when they were minus 17 points, and I worked with them in terms of helping them write a plan to get from that point to, I guess, sustainability and stability. Two issues. One is on the playing side. It takes 2 or 3 years to form a squad that you can actually say, right, we've got a basis of a squad, and I guess Gareth will agree to that. And it's all about adding on to that. Once you've got something as a solid foundation on the playing side, you look to add on. And what the Bournemouth model was 2 or 3 years of sustainability on that side and adding in. Rob also mentioned on the business side, they kind of got the revenue growth right in terms of they've got a small stadium. It actually shrank when it got into the Premier League. It was 14,000. They then lost 3,000 seats when they got into the Premier League through other segregation and TV studios, etc. But they went up the divisions on a prudent model. They packed the stadium every week. They had season tickets. They had to stop selling season tickets because they couldn't accommodate more. So they pack the stadium out every single week, and that's the kind of model that we're looking to get here in terms of making sure, as Rob said, that we fill the stadium every week, we get it vibrant, and we get a good commercial model. Put the two together from the football side, the under-23 development side, which Bournemouth also started through as a kind of a development side as well, and then the commercial model, and you've got a winning formula. So that's really what we want to achieve here at Wycombe. Thank you.
While you're around, actually, we had an email earlier from Steve, and it was It's about the use of this place, and I know on Tuesday you welcomed about 60 guests to the Business Adams Park network that started up. And it's been a common topic again at fans forums down the years about maximising the commercial opportunities. And you mentioned about match days as well, and the non-match days. Just talk us through so far the progress that you've made with existing and potentially prospective new partners, and kind of what your aims are with that Business Adams Park network that launched on Tuesday.
Okay, yeah. I mean, we view the commercial side as a very important part of the community as well. We're in a business community as well as a fan and people community. Businesses in the area and also national businesses that want to do business in this region, I think it's important to attract them to the club. Not just on match days. Obviously, we welcome them on match days in terms of match sponsorships or shirt stand sponsorships, match day boxes, but also we want to make this facility a 24/7, 7-day-a-week facility. And that involves the whole community, from charities through to businesses, through to individuals that want to come to this venue and hire the facilities. It might be this room, it might be one of the suites over in the Frank Adams Stadium. People can bring quite individual meetings, just a few people, right the way through a room like today, 300 people. But people need to know, and businesses need to know, that the facilities are here. So what we did is we opened it up last Tuesday at the Accrington game. Before the game, we invited around, I think it was 80 businesses that attended a new business network club that we have committed to having on a 3-monthly basis. So every quarter, we'll be inviting local business owners, entrepreneurs, established national businesses, partners of the club and potential partners to come and basically network with us, network with each other, and just develop a personal relationship with the club, and also they can gain from their own experience with us and get good networking facilities together as well. So it's a kind of a win-win situation for businesses, for the club. We need to extend our commercial outreach basically to get enough money in to give this man here the budget to do what he does best, which is a winning team. So that's really what we had. We've rebranded the whole business network, what we do commercially, conference-wise, hospitality-wise. It's now under a new banner and brand called Business at Adams Park. And we want to make sure we are the business. So that's really our sort of goal going forward as well. We want to be as good as the team on the pitch, off the pitch. And it's all about being professional. So that's what that was about the other day. Thank you.
I just wanted to, in a sense, I know it's a challenge, Rob, but just maybe challenge you. You were talking about the importance of the off-field experience, which is all great, but what happens on the field is the most important in terms of getting people in the stadium. And while people that are here this evening will probably come on a Tuesday night in the middle of winter, even if it takes us an hour and a half to get out and we lose and it's our 5th consecutive loss, that isn't the case for people that we're trying to get in to come on a regular basis. So I don't understand the money in football clubs at all, but the priority really needs to be giving Gareth the money that he needs to get a good team playing on the pitch. And if there's a bit of extra to improve the matchday experience and all those other things, then great. But what happens on the pitch is the most important.
Nobody denies that what happens on the pitch is most important. I think Gareth, the first time he and I met, I told him, look, man, you need to tell me what we need to do so I don't have a heart attack all of April. And because one of the things that makes English football so special is the existential nature of it. You know, you can be out of the league. That's a harsh reality. So yes, you have to do it. You said to challenge me on it. Let me tell you though, you can't give him what he needs if you're going to rely on football fans to turn out and pay the £25 that they need to pay to come to the games. There aren't that many pure football fans yet. What you need to do is understand that in a community such as this, as we presently stand, we can probably generate on a Tuesday night a crowd like, look, last night we're having a winning record, we're having a great year. Because the visitors don't bring many people, we only have 3,500 people there. And truthfully, 400 of them didn't show up. They had prepaid. So that won't sustain what you want. When I talk about it, I don't see the two as being competitive. We talk all the time, as Mark talked about. We tell everybody on the staff, their job is to work so hard that people want to come. I divide fans into 3 groups. Those who are true fans. Frankly, we could close the restrooms and not serve them beer, and we're going to have 2,100 people show up. We have the next group of people who want to come because the team's doing well, and they're playing Bristol or whatever, and we can probably get 4,000 to 4,500, maybe even 5,000. Then you want those who, then there are those who come because it's an event. And so in order to have it be an event, you have to have a special game day experience. You have to have people who are out there who don't particularly care for football, but they want to be where the action is. They want to be able to go to the office on Monday and say, man, we had a great time at the game on Saturday. They had this, they had that. We had cold beer, we had hot dogs. We were there for 5 hours. Had to drag the husband into the car to get him to leave. It was wonderful. And then for their mate to turn to him and say, well, who won? You know? I know I should have known. I'm assuming Wickham did, because everybody was happy. I want those people back every week. I need to build those, all 3 of those groups, so that we are bursting at the seams to fill the place up. So it's a challenge I'm willing to take on.
I think if I can just add to that as well, we know that the potential audiences are out there. If you think back to when we got promoted, we had the party in the park, and we played the mighty Stevenage, who brought 326 people. You'll tell me exactly how many they brought, but about 300 people. And we had to actually allocate the away end for home fans because it was an event, and they wanted to become a part of that. When we go to Wembley, and hopefully we'll get back there soon, we take 15,000. So the people are there, and we're not proud. We'll be somebody's second team. If they're a Premier League supporter, that's no problem. They probably can't afford to go and watch their team. We'll take them as a second team. So the potential is there. What we've got to do is engage with it.
Can I just mention, 4 letters as well, the SCMP. We can't always spend on the team when I'd love to. I'm sure Rob would say, you know, yeah, we'll spend as much as we can to start that cycle, but we can't. The laws forbid us to spend in 60% of 100% gross turnover. It's a complicated equation. Kelly Francis will know all the equations and all the numbers and how it works, but it's in there to stop teams overspending. So the more money we can create, the more I'll get, and it's that circle, and the better we'll do. And that's the circle we're in. You know, you can't just pull out loads of money in. And if you do, you get fined. And Man City do it, and they'll go fine, and they'll pay the fine. They can do that. You know, we can't. We want to do it right. And so, back to doing the football diploma in the summer, helping on this one. The SCMP does restrict how much you can pay and how much you do. Some teams will go 100% in this league, believe me, and gamble everything to get promoted. But we can't do that at Wickham, and so that rule as well comes into this argument.
Cool. I think we've been going for 90 minutes, which means we're in stoppage time, which means there's probably about 20 minutes left.
Them days have gone, believe me.
Unless Bloomfield gets another whack on the head and it'll be 10:30 or something. There was a question over here behind the light, I think.
Hello. Mark, I'd like to ask you a question. You're obviously the man on the commercial side. Do you know about the success story of Exeter Chiefs Rugby Club?
Well, strange enough I do, because I went to school with a guy called John Wood, who was at Exeter Chiefs during some of the time. He was commercial director. He was also on the board at Bournemouth while I was there. But so I do know of their model. But you sound like you know
Well,
about it.
4 years ago I read an article about it, and I couldn't believe that they said they can operate their stadium at 350 days a year. So I phoned him up and I says, well, how can you operate a stadium 250 days a year? I said, do you outsource it? They says, no, the only thing we get rid of is the catering, and we have outside caterers. They says, we have 2 women taking the bookings, and everything else is setting up, dismantling, it's done by volunteers. And they can operate that stadium 350 days a year. Could you do that?
Well, not currently, no. It's a great model, and I think that's something that we got to try and achieve. Exeter have a great model in terms of, and they've had a little bit longer to do that than we've had at the moment. I mean, we would certainly look to aspire to that kind of level or close to it. If we could operate it 150 days a year, I think it would be a good achievement from where we are at the moment. But as I said earlier, it's all about getting engagement with the community, and not just businesses as well. It's individuals, and you know, Rob and I were talking today about charities. We want to get charitable, you know, out to the charity community as well, in terms of getting charities to realise that we're here, business community to realise that we're here, and then people will come, they'll gravitate, you get momentum, and they'll suddenly realise, you know, we're here. A couple of comments from the business club on Tuesday was that some companies were talking to us, and we didn't realise we could book Adams Park. It's more accessible than we thought. We thought it was out of our league in terms of pricing. So we've got to get the message out there to the business community and the charity community and the community generally, that they can use this facility 24/7, 7 days a week, and that's really what we've got to aim for. So Chiefs are a great model, and let's try and aspire as near as we can to that model. Thank you.
Any more questions? Otherwise, is everyone to the bar? Anyone?
Good. Thank you.
Thank you. I thought you were going to thank everyone for coming, Rob.
I was going to thank Trevor's.
Actually, I'd first like to start by thanking the microphones. I think this is the first session we've had, I don't know how long, whether they've gone fun or whatever. But no, thank you. Thank you very much for coming. Hope you've enjoyed it. We are, I believe, at the start of an exciting journey. And it's really just for us to get that message out there and see where we go. So, safe journey home. Don't rush away. Spend some money at the bar, please. And we'll all be available if we want to have a quick chat afterwards as well. Thank you very much.
Join the 500 Club. If you ordered one of the plaques and an email about it earlier in the month, there are still some plaques here to collect. There are more to be created for those of you that joined a little bit later. Do come and see the trust table if your plaque might be here. Thank you.